Today I'm out here on this 2025 Kawasaki Eliminator. Now guys, I've never ridden this bike before, but after today's ride I should have a much better idea of what this thing is all about. You guys stick around, I'll give it a chase score at the end of the video. This is a first ride and I am Chase on two wheels. It kills me how much you have to rev this bike, but I also secretly in my heart kind of love it. Speaking of revving things and loving them in your heart, I revly love my cardos that I use on a daily basis while I ride. Discount code right there. My sanity's this way. Thanks, Cardo. Alrighty guys, that's what it looks like and that's what it sounds like. Now, before we get on this thing and take it for a ride, we get to thank the lovely sponsor of this video, Delete Me.
Okay, real quick story before we jump into this first ride. Last week, my sister-in-law told Heather and I about this website that somehow had everybody's information on it, and she was talking about how it had her stuff on it. Obviously, the first thing I did was search for myself. And of course, sure enough, not only did it have my name and my address, it had old addresses that I had lived in. It had phone numbers for my current phone and phone numbers I had forgotten I even had. I literally had to text my mom and be like, was this one of my previous numbers? And it literally freaking was. Not only that, it has family, close friends, all of this information about me, and that was super freaking creepy. So obviously this sent me down this giant rabbit hole of figuring out what the hell is going on and why is all of my information out there. And it turns out that all of this information comes from people called data brokers who scrape public records and social media, and they do everything on the internet they can to find your information, and then they sell it like a freaking box of pancakes at a grocery store. That is when I started using the sponsor of this video, which is Delete Me. So Delete Me is a hands-free website that searches the internet for your information, and they search hundreds of these data broker websites and they delete it for you. So obviously I signed up, filled out my little profile so that they know the information that they're going out there to find, and then within a week I got a privacy report showing me all of the websites that had my data. It was way more than just the one I had found. And then the other thing nice about that privacy report is all those websites that had your data, they got it all removed. So now I'm just using Delete Me to help protect myself, my family from scams, identity theft, or just having too much of my life floating around on the internet. So if you guys want to do like I did and get your information deleted off the internet, I've got a discount for you. All you have to do is go to joindeleteme.com/chase and use the coupon code CHASE. That's going to get you guys 20% off. So yeah, huge thanks to Delete Me for sponsoring this video and helping get my info off the internet. Now, we got a bike to ride.
Alrighty guys, that's it for the ads. Thank you so much for sitting through our ads. They are way better to us than the YouTube ads that you guys have to see. So I really appreciate you guys that support the companies, that support the content we make for y'all. Alrighty, let's get on the Eliminator and see what this thing is all about. Holy crap, if you were a short rider, you are going to love this thing. Guys, I'm 5'10", got a 32-inch inseam. Super bent legs on this motorcycle. So my short people, you're gonna love this thing, and also not very heavy. All right, key on, guys, pretty simple setup here. We have no modes to speak of, so we get to just get on this thing, get her cranked up, and get her going. A little crunched up on the lower half, but we'll talk about that later in the video. Also, something we can talk about, guys, is we have a newsletter. We don't trust YouTube to let you guys know we publish videos every week. We do it ourselves. So if you guys want to join the On2 Crew newsletter, Links in the description down below. I only email you once a week. Okay, off to the first ride. Dun, 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 dun. You know, guys, I gotta admit something. Before I saw this bike on the floor at WOW, I was not aware that Kawasaki made a really low CC cruiser. So today's gonna be a pretty interesting day. It's a model that I didn't even know existed, and now we're here doing a first ride on it. So it's kind of exciting in that way. Alrighty, guys, it's a first ride. Let's talk about body position on the Eliminator. So first off, we've got a relatively decent sized seat, and it's a little more soft than I would have expected it to be, but I think it's a little too soft. I don't see myself being comfortable on this seat for a very long period of time, and the body position is a little interesting to me. My top half is pretty normal, like you would expect. It's kind of upright, slightly leaned forward, just barely, but my lower half does feel a little crunched up. I don't know if that's because of the lower CC-ness of the bike, but I'm not in necessarily the most comfortable position, which I feel like a cruiser can be one of two things. You can be slightly uncomfortable and be fast, like my Sportster S, or you can be comfortable. And I'm not finding myself being comfortable on this bike, so it's kind of interesting in that way. Not the biggest fan, at least personally. Let's go ahead and get this green, and since we don't have any modes to change, we don't got nothing to do but talk about what's powering this motorcycle. So guys, powering the Eliminator is going to be Kawasaki's 451cc parallel twin. It's going to be good for about 45 horsepower. I authentically about said horsepower. 45 horsepower and around 31 foot-pounds of torque. The bike's going to weigh 388 pounds because we have the ABS model, and it's going to come with a 3.1 or 3.4 gallon gas tank. So as we're riding around the city, we can kind of talk about city performance here. And you know, it's a 451cc bike. It's not going to have a ton of pickup really anywhere, but the best pickup you're going to have is at lower speeds. And I'm kind of surprised by that 388 pounds. That seems super light for one, a motorcycle period, but also for a cruiser. So it's a lot easier to kind of maneuver the weight of the bike around. But what I've noticed is with my leg positioning, and me not being that comfortable, it just feels a little off to me. And while the weight is light and easy to maneuver at low speeds, when you get up to higher speeds, it feels like the bike has a slightly longer wheelbase, and it gets a little more slow and lethargic to move around. Not dangerous or anything like that, obviously just a characteristic of the bike. And I feel like the handlebars might be shorter, so I don't feel like I have like wider handlebars here, and that would help with maneuverability. We're coming up to a place that is also not the greatest for this bike, and that is red lights and the stopping and going of being in a city. Because my legs are so perched up, when I go to get my feet on the ground, it kind of takes some extra energy to get my legs up. They're not easily able to get to the ground there. And on a cruiser, if I was in a more comfortable position, my legs could easily get here. But because they're kind of crunched up, it takes a little time. But like I said, 388 pounds, not a lot of weight to really control at the red light, so the bike's not really going to be that tiring to ride around town. Do you guys ever ride a bike around? And if you have a lot of experience, you might know what I'm talking about. If you're new to riding, you might not have this yet, but do you guys ever ride a bike around and you just naturally shift the bike when the bike feels like it needs to be shifted? I've been doing that with this bike this entire ride, both in the camera car run that we do and right now, and I'm realizing that I'm shifting the bike way before it really needs to. If you guys notice on the dash, the bike redlines apparently at 11,000 RPM, and I keep finding myself shifting when I'm about at the 6,000 RPM mark. It's kind of interesting how that's a thing. I'm not intentionally doing that, but it's just kind of naturally what I'm doing. I'm going to try to not shift. I'm going to let it get a little higher in the RPMs after this green light, and we'll see how the engine feels if we go past that kind of natural zone that I want to shift in. Look at that. I automatically shifted, not even thinking about it. All right, we'll do it in a second. We'll see how it feels high up. See, that's why I think I'm shifting, because right now I'm at 6,000 RPMs, and this thing is vibrating like crazy, but hypothetically, I got 5,000 more RPMs to go. Yeah, this feels like I'm going to make the bike blow up. Damn, has some pickup in the higher RPMs. Yeah, there's so much shaking going on with the bike though. It feels weird riding a cruiser like this, but it's kind of interesting though. There's a lot more power up there than I would have expected it to. So I guess what we're learning is if you're riding an Eliminator around, rev it out a little more than you would expect to, because there's some fun power at the top of the revs. My butt is vibrating so much it might go numb though, so I'm gonna have to shift up. Okay, so it's fun if you want to do it for a little bit and just like get a giggle, but definitely not a way I would want to ride the bike. I kind of just don't want a cruiser vibrating. I want it to be comfortable. I want to be relaxed on it. And getting those small little micro vibrations is just not the vibe. I'm trying to figure out, what does the claw truck do? Does it like wash garbage cans? Like, what? All right, now this is the part I'm a bit worried about, is the highway. 451 cc's on a little cruiser might have a tough time here. But whether it's going to have a tough time or not does not matter. We have to find out how fast the 2024 Kawasaki Eliminator will go from 40 miles an hour to 80 miles an hour. It's my job and I'm sticking to it. You know, I'm going to start it in third. With that power up high, I think third's going to be a good spot. All right, let's sit back. Let's get ready. On your mark. Get set. And go. Oh, it's definitely got some pickup at the top. All right, that's 80. How fast was that? Man, this engine is fascinating. It has so much power high up in the revs, and it's a parallel twin. That is so strange. Alrighty guys, we're here on the highway, and what is going on, man? I could even go in a higher gear. I got like an overdrive 6 gear. Okay, so this is kind of what I wanted to know. I was worried about that vibrating with the engine at higher revs, and I was like, man, if it's going to be revving like that in the highway, that's going to be uncomfortable. But I'm currently in 6th gear going 75, and I have vibrations for sure, but I don't have those crazy micro vibrations, and I'm going highway speed, so that's awesome. And if I needed to speed up, I've got way more RPM to play with. This thing is incredibly more capable on the highway than I would have expected. Now, we don't have cruise control, so that kind of sucks, and we don't have any kind of wind protection. As far as the wind, it's getting very dispersed, and it's hitting me about right at my neck level, but I guess because there's not a very sharp windscreen, the wind is just kind of all over the place by my neck, and it doesn't really affect me that much. Now, the wind on my shoulders and my head is pretty a decent amount. I'm having to like push myself forward and hold onto the bike a little more than I'd like. But, you know, overall, for a super light bike, this is not bad. The longer wheelbase is definitely helping out. Would I want to cruise on it, or would I want to tour on this bike? Definitely not. Like, my hand would get tired, but I got to give it a little more praise for the highway than what I was coming into here expecting. What if I could tuck in? I think tucking in helps, but only because the wind is hitting the top of my head and going down, not blowing my top half back. Overall, not a terrible showing for what I expected on the highway. I think what I'm most impressed with is the gearing and how the 451cc engine can handle this and have room to spare. Like, we're not even in that good power band yet. All right, coming up to our big turn. I'm gonna slow down a bit because this is a cruiser motorcycle. We don't have the most ground clearance, but I'm interested to see how much ground clearance we have and how the suspension feels. I would expect to scrape right here, and I'm not. That's okay. We're still leaning. Way better ground clearance than I expected to have on this bike. Like, an incredible amount more. I expected to scrape. I never scraped. I never actually scraped. Holy crap. That was really impressive. In my brain, I was getting to that moment of like, you're about to scrape, you're about to scrape. Never did. That's pretty cool. So suspension wise, we are definitely on the softer side of suspension. The bike definitely kind of wiggles around, but it doesn't really wiggle around as much as I would expect, and I'm assuming that's because of the lighter weight. So not a terrible job on the suspension. I expected the suspension to be a little worse. So kind of touched on it, guys, but power wise for this 451cc parallel twin, it is punching way above its class. I wish it had a little more torque down low to get some of that fun city torque. You've got to rev it out more than I expected, so that's a little weird, and I'm finding myself, I'm naturally riding this bike in a way that I shouldn't, because the power really comes on, it seems, after I shift, where I intentionally am shifting it. So this is one of those bikes I'm having to kind of like rewire my brain of how to ride it correctly. Speaking about the gearing, I have had a pretty significant issue getting into neutral on this motorcycle. And I've tried it while going, I've tried it while stopped, and it just has a hard time getting into neutral. Also, this bike is a used model. It has almost 5,000 miles on it. So I really feel like the transmission should be kind of beaded in by now. But yeah, it just does not want to get into neutral. I also will note the shifter on this bike is so high, I have to really get my foot behind it to get it to shift. It doesn't feel the greatest. I will say, the feeling of the bike getting into gear is very light. You got to be feeling for it to make sure you get into gear. Luckily, the dash has a gear indicator on it. And I also find myself getting to 6th gear incredibly quickly on this bike. We're going to follow the Audi, see if we can skip all the cars. Let's go, Audi. Let's go, go, go. Push that thing. Yes. Yeah. Woohoo. Let's talk about the brakes real quick. They're okay. They're not the best. They have like a low to medium bite, and there's not a ton of feel. There's a little of sponginess going on. If I'm gonna be honest, guys, I wouldn't really expect that much out of brakes on a bike that, you know, cost under $7,000. They're not dangerous. They're not, you know, unsafe or anything like that, but just nothing to really speak home to about the brakes. So let's move on to the controls, guys. We got a pretty simple setup here. You know, everything feels kind of, what do we call it? Plasticky, cost-cutty, but all the buttons work. I click a button, I get a little tactile feel of the button. I don't really have that big of a problem here. We've got like an old school super meh dash with the buttons up here. Nothing really crazy. I will say the dash does a good job of showing me all the information I need to know. I appreciate that it has you know, I've got the odometer pulled up now, but we can hit this button a couple times, go through the trips, and we actually get a range to E, which is pretty awesome. I really appreciate that. We have that, we have the gear indicator. So the dash might not look fantastic and might not look really fancy, but it gives me all the information I need, so I do appreciate that. One of the things I am noticing with the controls wise, the clutch is extraordinarily light. Not a huge fan of that. And the throttle has a ton of free play. Look how much free play that has. You might be able to fix that throttle free play with the, like, I don't know if you can or not, but on some bikes you can fix that free play. Our levers are not adjustable, so there's that. What else is there? I don't really think there's too much else to talk about. Oh, the mirrors. The mirrors are like, they're not great because they're so close to you. I feel like if they were farther out, but with these handlebars being so close to me, kind of makes it hard for the mirrors to do a really good job. Part of me wants to suggest the mirrors to be more rectangular shape instead of circle, but because of the headlight, I feel like the circular mirrors look better on the bike. So I don't know if the bike would look right with like longer mirrors, but you might want to look into replacing those with something a little bit longer, just to get the mirror out to about there so you can see a little better behind you. Also, a little tush update. The seat is starting to become a little uncomfortable. I've been on the bike, just for reference for you guys, about 3 hours today so far, and it's getting to that point where if I was out doing a ride and the seat was feeling like this, I'd probably pull over at a gas station and take a little break for a second, get a drink or something like that, and we're at the 3 hour mark. So it's really not that bad, like not a bad distance for a stock bike to be that be this uncomfortable over that period of time. That's a decent amount of time on a bike. Oh Lord, here we go. Let's find neutral together first. There he is. All right. Alrighty, guys, so I think I've touched on everything with the Eliminator, and there's only one thing left to do, and that's give it its chase score. So let's see how the Eliminator plays out.
All right, so guys, let's get into the chase score for the Kawasaki Eliminator. So for throttle response, I'm going to give it a 5. It's smooth at low speeds, but needs high revs to find usable power. Next up for agility, I'm going to give it a 6. It's easy to maneuver at city speeds, but feels a little sluggish at higher speeds. Now for the brakes, I'm going to give it a 5. They have a soft feel and a medium bite. They're not dangerous, just unimpressive. Now for acceleration, I do have to give it a 4. It takes serious effort to wake up, and the top end pull isn't really worth the wait. Now for suspension, I'm going to give it a 6 actually. It's softer than ideal, but it holds its own better than expected for a lightweight cruiser. Next up we have comfort, and I've got to give it a 4. The seat wears on you over time, and that cramped leg angle is not helping. Now tech-wise, I gotta give it a 4. It's just kind of basic. There's no rider aids depending on the type model you get, and there's no real standout features to speak of. Ease of use-wise, I'm gonna give the bike a 6. It's got simple controls and an interface, but it's a little frustrating to get into neutral. Now for versatility, I'll give it a 5. It's a solid lightweight cruiser for shorter riders. Not much else. And finally, fun for the money, I'm gonna give a 6. It's affordable and approachable, but just doesn't bring standout smiles per dollar. So that's going to make the total for the ride score a 26, a total for the usability score of a 25, giving a total chase score of 51.
Alrighty guys, so that's the chase score on the Eliminator. You guys can let me know if you agree with me or disagree with me in the comments down below. I love having conversations with y'all down there. So guys, overall, where I feel like the Eliminator is in the market is this is a solid option if you're looking for that 400 to 500 cc lightweight cruiser. You're looking at the Rebel 500 from Honda, the 450 CLC from CF Moto. We got the Eliminator. I think these things are interesting options to have in the market, and they make pretty decent little city bikes and bikes to maybe get as your first motorcycle. You know, we've got a lot more ground clearance on this bike than I would expect, and the seat height is not that bad. So for my people out there looking to start riding that are shorter riders and you want like a cruiser style platform, I definitely think this is a bike you guys should look into. Now, is this bike going to be the flashiest, most exciting, or anything like that? No, not really. But in my experience, this bike has been doing a solid job at just being a small cruiser. It doesn't take a lot of energy to ride because it's so light. It's easy to maneuver. There's plenty of power to do what you want. Like, this is not going to be a standout motorcycle, but I think this is a solid bike to just have in the garage to do the commuting to work, riding around town and stuff like that. And for that, I think this bike is great. So guys, that's about all I've got on the Eliminator. Big shout out to Wow Motorcycles for letting us borrow this bike. That's where the bike came from. If you guys want to check out a huge inventory of used bikes here in North Georgia, definitely check them out. We'll have a bike provided by link for them in the description down below. And if you guys got to this point in the video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you like motorcycle content, and do me a favor guys, share this video out with somebody that's looking to get into riding and they're looking for a light, small cruiser to really get them started, and maybe if they're shorter, even better. It always helps when you guys share the videos out. Anyways guys, I'm Chaseontwowheels. You guys ride safe out there on whatever you're riding, and I will see you on the next one. Later guys.